All right, so in 8.4, we're going to talk about some different vocab terms with evolution, as well as um, as well as how does a population reach a point to where maybe natural selection and evolution is not happening to that population? So when does a population reach this idea of perfection? And evolution stops acting on it. So we're going to look at 5 different principles that are needed to be met in order for an evolution or for evolution to not act on a population. So natural selection, review of a natural selection. So different things causes natural selection to happen. So we said overpopulation. So this is when a population overproduces and more or makes more individuals in an area than can be sustained. Variations. Okay, maybe there's a lot of variations within a population, and the natural world kind of favors one of those traits in comparison to the rest. Struggle for existence. So maybe there's an overpopulation has led to too many organisms in an area, and there's a struggle for food, or there's a struggle for mates, or there's a struggle for habitat. And this oftentimes is going to result in the death of some organisms, which is going to drive natural selection. Differential reproductive success. And remember, we talked about the most fit males are going to be chosen by females to reproduce, and the unfit males, or the males that don't have the desired characteristics, are not going to be chosen to reproduce, and their bloodline will end with them. So we see natural selection happening because of that. All right, so microevolution. What microevolution is small changes, right? Small changes within a population that leads to better adaptations and more fitness. Macro is large. Okay, macro is large changes that lead to the creation of new species. So this doesn't happen without microevolution over the course of many generations. For example, fish through macroevolution becomes amphibians, which become reptiles, which then become mammals over millions and millions of years, many generations. And it has to have a whole lot of microevolution events in order to produce these macroevolution situations. All right, speciation. So this is the formation of a new species. So species are a group of similar organisms that reproduce to create fertile offspring. So fertile is able to reproduce. Right? It means that they're viable. They can have their own offspring. For example, a mule is not a species. It cannot reproduce to create more mules. So a mule is created through the reproduction of a horse and a donkey. Okay, horses and donkeys can reproduce with each other, and they'll have offspring, and these offspring are mules. But mules are not considered a species, even though they're living animals, because mules cannot reproduce themselves. Speciation occurs ultimately because of the chance in a gene pool over time. So a gene pool is all of the genes in a given population. Relative frequencies of alleles is the frequency of a particular allele in a population. For example, if 75% of a population has the allele for brown hair, and 25% of the population may have the allele for blonde hair. All right, so Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Godfrey Hardy and Wilhelm Weinberg were mathematicians and a physician who developed the principle of genetic equilibrium. So what this is when there are no changes to a population over time. A population at genetic equilibrium is not evolving. So there's some requirements that must be met in order for a population to not be evolving. The 5 conditions that must be met for a population to be not evolving are: populations must be large, extremely large. So with large numbers, there's a small chance that, or there's with large numbers, small changes are not going to affect the overall population. There must be random mating, meaning that there's no selection of mates at all, none whatsoever. No selection of mates at all, not even females picking out certain traits that they're like. It is just completely random all the time. All right. Number 3, no gene flow. There's no migration into or out of the population. There's no new traits or no new alleles being introduced to the population. Number 4, no mutations. So there's nothing that's throwing a random kind of gene into the gene pool. Okay, no mutations at all, and it's making the gene pool stay consistent, and no natural selection. So all organisms have equal access to all resources, equal access to all mates, equal access to all habitats, equal access to survival. All right. Now, if you look at all these and you think about all these, this kind of sounds like, utopia. This perfect world where everything is ideal and there's no struggle for existence and there's no better traits or there's no better qualities and there's no want and there's no desire. This doesn't exist, not even in humans. And not even in humans, this doesn't exist. And we're not saying that, natural selection events happen on us as a human population often, but we have characteristics and traits that we look for in our partners and our mates, whatever that may be. We have things we like, we have things we don't like, right? That's not random mating. You're deciding different traits. When we talk about gene flow, okay, or no migration into or out of a population. We still see this in humans, even though we're one species. There's different genetic frequencies and allele frequencies based off different parts of the world, and we see all the time that individuals are marrying or having offspring from with the two parents being from separate parts of the world. So you're getting introductions of new genes and frequencies into a population. So not even in humans, which is kind of humans have kind of excluded ourselves from the way the natural world works to a degree. We don't even see Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in our population. So what do you think about a population that lives in the wild? Of course not. It's a game of survival. Survive long enough to reproduce. Okay, and there's a struggle for existence. Every day is a struggle. Can I find the resources? Can I provide? Can I have the access to mates? Can I have the access to habitats? Do I have the qualities that a mate is looking for? You might not. Okay, so it's very, very rare that a population is meeting all of these curriculum, or not curriculum, criteria for evolution to not be occurring at all. All right, and that's the end of 8.4. So there is a form that goes with this. Go ahead and complete that form. And if you have questions, let me know. Thank you.